Hello, and thank you for your time. I'm guessing you've got something that you need to proofread, which is why you've clicked on this video. So I'm not going to try to persuade you that proofreading is a good idea. I'm Suzanne. Let's dive straight in and see if we can help you get the job done. If you've been working on text for a while, whether you wrote it or you've been reviewing it, you've edited it yourself, if you know the text inside out, you can get to a point where you see what you expect to see. So when it comes to proofreading, which is the final quality check, just typos, full stops, etc., you need to find a way to make yourself see the text as though you are seeing it for the first time. And the best way you can do this is to leave it. Leave it overnight. If you can leave it a couple of days, even a week, the better. The longer you can leave it, the fresher you will be, and the better your chance of spotting any lingering issues in there. Some people also find it helpful to change the format. If you've been reviewing it on screen so far, perhaps looking at it on a tablet or on a printout would help. I do this, for example, not just for proofreading, but when I'm editing, when I'm working in Word on screen, I then look at the text again on a tablet, which for me is equivalent of seeing it on paper, and I spot different things. Unconsciously, we read differently. And slow down. This is one of the key things I can say to you. Generally, when we're reading, we read by recognizing the overall shapes of words and shapes of sentences, which is why it's easy to miss if, for example, if there's a word missing or a word in the wrong place. You need to slow yourself down and see it word by word. Well, this is all very well, but what kinds of things are you looking for? In the first instance, look out for the really prominent, high-profile pieces of text. I know this is a busy slide. It is notoriously difficult to spot mistakes in titles, names, business names, phone numbers, all those bits that we see day in, day out, or that have been on the document, whether it's a one-page marketing flyer or 100, 200 pages of thought leadership. By the time you get to proofreading, you've seen that title and those contact details so many times. It's very, very easy to assume they're correct or to assume that somebody else has checked them carefully. I'm showing you this example. This book, The Skin We're In, was published early in 2020. The subtitle, as you can see bottom right, is A Year of Black Resistance. Unfortunately, it was published with the word black missing, which is what you can see in the main image and top right. Now, the reason this is such a good example for our purposes here is because it demonstrates that this is not just a case of looking for typos. Nothing is misspelled in the version of the subtitle that got published, which is the other reason it was so difficult for them to spot the mistake. So when you're looking at these kinds of things, yes, of course, you're looking for typos. You're looking for, is it in the correct font? Is it correctly aligned? All of those kinds of things. But you are also thinking, does it say what it is actually supposed to say? And don't try to do everything at once. If it's a one-page flyer, it's probably a slightly simpler document and you won't have so many elements to check. But if it's 50 or 100 or 200 pages of thought leadership, you may well have several elements and you will probably need to check those elements separately. For example, something as basic as page numbering. Yes, it has probably been done automatically in the software, But what if somebody made a mistake setting up that automation? Has anybody actually double checked that the pages are correct? Check the contents page again, even if it's been produced automatically. Do the titles in the contents page match the titles actually in the text? And are the page numbers correct? This is especially important if you've been editing things in the layout, but since that contents page was automatically generated. If you've got those headings beside page numbers, headings that probably say they might have the title of the report, they might have the title of a section or a chapter, you need to check that they are correct. For me, this is 2 checks on a proof. I go through once, turning pages, double checking that every page has the correct words on it. And then I go through again, reading them slowly, looking for typos. If anything is numbered, whether it's chapter numbers, examples, figures, whatever it might be, I would recommend making that a separate check. Turn pages just checking the numbering, because if you try to do it at the same time as proofreading the main text, you'll get distracted, you'll forget partway through and suddenly realize you've got to backtrack. But what about proofreading the main text? That's probably what you had in mind when you clicked on this video. So what should you look for there? Well, I've told you to focus on typos. The content should be final by this point. And I've told you to look at it as though you're seeing it for the first time. To do that, some people like to start at the end and read backwards word by word, because then you can't get distracted by the content. You have to focus on the individual words. For the same reason, some people like to cover part of the page, use a ruler to highlight the line that they're reading, or put a sheet of paper over most of the page so that they can only see a couple of lines. Reading text aloud can also be very helpful. Whether you read it yourself or have software read it to you, this is a very good way of spotting where there are words missing or words duplicated. And again, this is something that a lot of editors do. And my top tips for you when you're reading the text, however you choose to read it, when I get to words such as complaint or compliant, contract or contact, I stop and I make myself slow down and look letter by letter. Complaint and compliant, for example, are both plausible words that we may use in our professional publishing somewhere along the way. It's very easy to mistype, to get that I and A in the wrong order. And spell check probably won't flag it. Some can now query, have you got the wrong word? But a lot will still only look for typos, and either one is a word. So when you get to these kinds of words, make yourself slow down. Narrow letters, the same. When I get to a word such as liability or arising or versatility, these ring my mental alarm bell and I slow down and I force myself to go letter by letter. Have I got the correct number of I's and L's and T's, and are they in the right order? This goes back to what we were saying about reading generally by recognizing the overall shape of a word. In most fonts, those narrow letters, if they are duplicated or missing, they don't make much difference to the overall shape of the word. And that's why it's very difficult to miss them. And I would say at this point, I would like to emphasize, if you ever have to use the word public, do a search for the alternative, because it is a very common misspelling and it can be embarrassing. I've already told you to check the prominent high profile text. the headings, the contact details, and so on. But check them again when you get to the end. Make yourself check them again. If it's digital, if it's a blog post or a web page, for example, you can copy and paste your email address and send yourself a test email to double check that you have typed it correctly. You can test the links. You can click on them and check, firstly, that they are working, and secondly, that they do actually link to the thing they're supposed to link to. And then have a last paranoid double check of your name, your phone number, your email address, whatever it might be, because these are the important details. And with that, I would like to thank you again for your time, and I wish you luck with your proofreading. And I hope you enjoy the task. I hope you find some of this helpful.